Well, Singlemalt TV has now brought its cameras to Trafalgar Square in the heart of London, teeming with red buses, people and pigeons, thousands of pigeons. We're here to visit the Albannach, a bar restaurant which you can't see because it's behind the bus, but it's a Scottish, stylish, modern Scottish bar restaurant. Opened 2 years ago, not a trace of tartan, although if you look carefully you'll see that the staff wear kilts, but the kilts are actually pinstripe kilts. We are, after all, in the middle of London. But the main reason for going there is to meet Jim Wrigley, the bar manager, who is also an expert mixologist and who has done a lot of work creating new Scotch-based cocktails, but based upon classic cocktails.
It would be remiss of me if we would start talking about working with whiskey and cocktails without mentioning the history of whiskey. I love the history of spirits, I love the history of whiskey. I think that we've been talking about bartenders being sort of biologists, physicists, or just scientists in general. One thing they are as well is the historians. And they have to be historians because drinking's been around for so many years. Also, if you're going to solve any problem, look back into the past. Someone's made the same mistake or been in the same quandary before, and you can learn a lot from history. So this is a modern historical drink. The basis of the drink, it's a blazer. It's created by a guy called Professor Jerry Thomas, and it appears in his 1862 Bon Vivant's Companion, or How to Make Fancy Drinks.
And was he an American?
He was an American, yeah. I mean, pretty much, if you go back before 1900, all cocktails were American.
Yeah.
There were traditional drinks throughout other places that they drank. You know, the Swedes and the Finns were drinking their vodka mixed with juices and things like that, but they weren't cocktails and people weren't thinking about the ingredients. He was a showman and he had a laboratory out the back of his bar, so he was playing around with the idea of setting fire to things and giving a great show. So he took 2 pewter tankards, put whiskey, honey, hot water in one, and then a lemon and a bit more whiskey in the other, and then just set fire to them, poured them in flaming arcs of fire across.
I've tried to do that and I couldn't get it to work.
It's bloody impossible. I mean, like we
do
do.
Very high spirits.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you do the hot water, much as we're doing here, the hot water is to release the alcohol vapors off and get it to light better. I find you certainly can't do it with tins because they get too bloody hot too quickly. Talking about main courses, from the Talisker it might appear to be a bit of a step down, but what we're talking about is working with flavours as well. So we're going to come back to, this is one of my favourite whiskies. I love introducing it to people because it's not as well known as some. Most whiskey geeks will know it because it's got one of those taglines, you know, most northerly, highest, whatever. Scotland's smallest distillery. I went up here when I was visiting with Hugh Leslie, actually. Yeah. We went up, we were driving through Pitlochry, so his dad Simon's got a cottage up north, it's Allness, so just up north of the Cromarty Firth. Great up there, you know, sometimes go up to Broras to play golf and things like that. On our way up, Hugh turns around to me and says, "Oh, let's stop for lunch, but I know something we can do that's interesting. Let's go and have a look around the distillery." Great. Seen some distilleries. Let's go see another one. Which one we're going to go see? Edredale, smallest distillery. You've got your little picture on here. I sound like an advertising gimmick, but the distillery just the same amount in a year as some of the largest distilleries produce in a day. And it being this kind of interesting 10-year-old whiskey. So taking the base flavours of that, it's not, we're not going for a massive, huge seafood dish for our main course. We're not going for a full-on beef fillet or something like that. What we're kind of coming between them. So maybe corn-fed Scottish chicken or something, you know, maybe probably not game, but maybe coming on to lighter freshwater fish, something like that in sort of comparison of flavours. So we're going to take the flavours and we're going to work with them. When we're working with the flavours, I always like there to be a bit of history. The drink's called the Alchemist, and there's a reason for that. Originally I was going to use Glenkinchie for this drink because around about 600 100 years ago. In about the 1400s, there was reputedly there was an alchemist who lived in where Edinburgh would have been, the Edinburgh region around the castle. He was an alchemist, and he is quite possibly one of the first people to use the process of distillation within the Scottish, the region of Scotland. But he didn't use it to make booze. He was an alchemist. He was using it for various different things, and he was renowned throughout the entire of Europe as being this sorcerer and magus. I love that idea.
I think you're thinking of Michael Scott.
Michael Scott, that's it. Yes,
Scott,
exactly.
The alchemist, yeah.
Yes. So we're gonna take Michael Scott's idea, alchemy.
He was also called the Wizard of the North, like Walter Scott, his later
names.
Namesake.
The other Scots.
The other Wizard of the North. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, this is it. So it steeps in history, and what he was probably trying to do, among other things, was make gold. The idea of making gold isn't necessarily gold in a literal sense. It could be, the all knowledge, fountain of all knowledge, or whatever. But we're making gold here. So the first thing we're going to do is actually start the process going with our little laboratory set that we've got set up here. So we're going to use quite a lot of whiskey. That's 50 mils. It was just under. I'm just going to top that up. One thing with this is that you have to be safe. Don't try this at home. All our staff are experienced professionals and all that sort of jazz. We accept no responsibility for any carpet set on fire.
And this Edward, I was just checking, is it 40% alcohol?
It's the 40%, yeah. So it's going to. We need that hot water to start going off. I mean, the glass is quite warm. This will just heat it up. There's some vapors going. We're using these huge brandy balloons. You'll notice that I'm using one that I've used before. This is because after a few times of using, they're tempered and they're less likely to break. I really hope it doesn't break after I've said that. One of the other basics would be from the base expression of Edinburgh.
Well, I've just seen ginger, so I immediately think of ginger.
Yes. Yeah. So.
What else would I say of Edinburgh? I would say cereal notes, biscuits, dried fruits in some, fresh fruits in other some expressions.
One thing, one thing that I always get from it, which I love, is one of the reasons I recommend it to so many people, is honey. Not the kind of beeswaxy thing going on.
The Dalwhinnie for that, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So what we're doing, we're just throwing in a couple of finely chopped nails of root ginger. They're going to sit in there. They're actually going to stew. We're going to boil away. The flavours are already starting to go in there. You know how powerful the flavour of ginger is. It's going to work with any spicy notes that are in there. Talking of sort of fruits, we've already used we used orange in the last cocktail. We move on to lemon. Basically, we're trying to work with high notes, taking something that's fairly sumptuous, rounded, not massively full-bodied, but at the same time light and balanced. And we're going to add lots and lots of little high notes to it. So ginger, spice, and richness, and then.
Yes, because Edinburgh, although it's a light flavoured spirit, but it's got a lot of body to it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's. Actually, we'll tell you what we'll do. Do you want to try it? Try a bit now.
A little reminder.
Not with that glass. I didn't think there was actually be anything that we wanted to edit out, but that swapping the glass, I think we'll get rid of the broken wine glass coming out. So just so you can touch base again with the whiskey.
Yes, there is a bit of ginger, and also now that is. There's got a bit of European oak in it, I think.
This is the new bottle, but I'm reassured that this is still the same liquid that's in there.
It's surprisingly spicy for a whiskey of this strength.
Yeah.
It's like fragrant pepper.
Perfect. So, pepper, alchemy, little bit of gold, and obviously the colour is pure gold. Also, I'll come on to this in a second, but as a preparation for the drink, one of the other things we're going to do is we're going to take some elderflower. Now, elderflower is going to give us, obviously, I mean, elderflower is floral, it's fruity, but it's not as perfumey as something like a lavender flavour or something like that. Because it's a cordial, it's quite sweet. Going back to the whiskies tasting like where they come from, well, the whole floral thing definitely goes in with the situation of Pitlochry and the sort of low hills around it and things like that. So just literally adding a touch. We don't want to overpower it, as you say. I mean, it's a concentrated flavour in there, so yeah, by all means, whack away.
Oh, yeah.
And then apple juice. Now, apple juice is quite sweet, so that's going to add there. Other reason for doing that is that's going to get really hot. You want to be able to drink it at some point, so we're going to stop it from being too hot.
Your fire extinguisher.
This is my fire extinguisher. This is sitting over here. Just mix that together, and then over here we've got our whiskey. We've got a couple of more ingredients that we're going to add. I should bring them out now. Is that peach again? Peach does work with whiskies.
I'm surprised.
Peach, apricot as well. Find when you go onto wood finishes, anything that's been finished in Pedro Jimenez, you're talking about instantly sort of cassis and mûr and chambord and those dark berry flavours, really full-on ripe flavours. When you're talking about working with bourbon cassis, then like I say, you're talking about working with cocoa, cacao or coffee liqueurs and things like that. I find that peach works with definitely all the lowlands. The only one that I probably wouldn't necessarily put it with would be the 3-wood Auchentoshan or anything over about 20 years. When you start working with things that are over 20 years, then you really are talking about working with things that have formed new compounds within themselves. The tannins are broken down and form much richer flavours and balanced notes, and they go on forever.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make a cocktail with it, unless you use ingredients that are going to stand up to it, then you're going to end up with, much with the Talisker you ended up with a smoke, you'll just end up with whiskey at the end of it, and it's not necessarily, it's kind of like a tainted flavour, so you have to be careful. But definitely peach is going to work well with the citrus and the other ingredients we're going to put in here. And this is Krupnik. Do you know Krupnik? It's a honey vodka liqueur. It's about, I think the recipe's about 400 years old. It's from back in the day when the process of distillation was
pretty crude.
Yeah, much less highly rectified spirits. So you'd end up with a medicinal spirit, where you get your aqua vitae, eau de vie, and all those things. Good for you because it's not the water from the stream that might kill you or whatever. You'd end up with that spirit in there, and they'd flavour it with other ingredients which were good for you, so herbs and spices and stuff. So this is, if you haven't, again we'll do just a touch of a try on this. I say, it says honey vodka liqueur, it's still 40%.
I'd be hard pressed to identify honey. It's not mead-like. It's not sickly.
No, not at all. I mean, reading the back, aromatic spices, and goes well with coffee. Is what it says on there. I wouldn't say that. Poles drink it with their sort of their rye vodka, or they drink it with Zubrovka, which is the bison grass vodka, and apple juice. Yeah, it's I think it's called Yabuku of Travi, which means apple in the grass. So you have like Krupnik and then bison grass vodka and then apple. So that kind of dry finish on it as well, and the weird spices. I've never been able to identify all of them. It's got that whole Benedictine or one of those early liqueur things
it's
of being
happily in the finish, isn't it?
great stuff. Yeah. So we've got a whole range of flavours going on here. I suppose I should start it. I'm going to start the process going. I'll just move these out of the way. Now comes the fun bit. Okay, is that going to stay? Obviously, it's one of those processes that as it gets warmer, it releases more alcohol, so it keeps itself going. So we just got that, that's going there. As it's cooking, we're cooking our ginger. Very nice. And as the glass heats up, we'll be able to get a little bit of a reaction off of that edge there. And the whiskey's boiling away at this point. So first thing we want to do is add some more citrus notes. So we're just spraying.
Isn't it interesting, the oil burns?
Exactly, yeah. So your citrus oil, which you might put on a martini or a Manhattan or whatever, it's flammable. So we're flaming those over, and that'll just add tiny touches of that to it. Because our alcohol's burning off, I'm going to have to whack it away with the Krupnik straight away. So we brought down the temperature again, add another ingredient, they'll all sit there.
Flame's a slightly different colour, maybe it's just because it's...
It's probably just because it's underway.
Yeah.
Got to be careful, because if that colder liquid touches the edge of the glass, which is very hot, then you get bangs. Some of the alchemy side of things, we're just going to start off a little bit of a fireworks show.
What are you putting in?
This is cinnamon. This is the other ingredient. Saying about the pepper and the spicy notes, well, ginger, cinnamon, peach and honey obviously all work together well. They're held up by that whiskey. And now we're going to add a bit more of the citrus oils in there.
Great, isn't it? A little flash.
So, get that going. Now, it should be warm enough for us to add the lower ABV of the peach liqueur. That's sitting there. It raises the sugar content as well, so it means it's going to be much more palatable as a sort of dinner drink. And just a little bit more cinnamon. Don't want to overdo it on the cinnamon because it's such a heavy flavour.
It is, isn't it?
You can. This is powdered cinnamon. You can use cinnamon sticks. Just start if you're making a drink like this, making a hot toddy. Just shove a cinnamon stick in, keep stirring it, and that's a good way of doing it. I like doing this because it's that whole show thing. Yeah. Oh, there we go. I'll 50 lighter.
I've got a lighter.
Oh, you do. Great. Audience participation. That's what I like to see. Thanks. Let's just get this going again. Yeah, you have to be careful. You quite often lose the hairs on the back of your hand playing them. Right, so that's all of our ingredients are in there. You can see if you look at the ginger in there, where the cinnamon's hit it and it's been hit by the thing, it's kind of encrusted, more like a sort of gingery dessert than anything else. And then last but not least, we're just going to strain those ginger bits out as we go into our apple. Oh, it's gone out again. Sorry, can I borrow your lighter again? Sure. Yeah, I knew that. There we go.
That was a little yelp.
It was.
Or was it you?
No, I don't think it was me actually. I was just double checking this, and now we have a finished blazer. We've strained out all the other ingredients. You can tell it's quite warm. We haven't overheated the glass, but it might be a little bit warm around the lips. So just give it a temp, and watch out for your nose because it obviously the heated aromas in the brandy blend are going to whack up and belt you from a. Yes, perfect. I always wondered what that was for.
Christmassy. The cinnamon's coming through, but not too strongly.
Should hopefully balance with the spiciness of the ginger.
It's like a apple, ginger, and cinnamon tart. Gorgeous. It's warming, sweet. It is like an apple pie.
Brilliant. So maybe as a dish, we're probably talking about some light lamb or pork belly or something like that with a little bit of apple compote and spices on there, sweet.
Sensational.
It's okay for you.
But that is the essence of Christmas.
Good.
Mince pies.
Yep.
Oh, liquid Christmas.
Say that again, just a minute. Okay.
Yeah. Liquid Christmas. That's really
So that's our full-bodied. It does work very well as an after dinner.
flavors. Yeah.
But again, the whiskey. I mean, there's a lot of whiskey in there, and it's not lost. But at the same time, it's not overruling or anything.
It's clear. It's sort of almost. It's not exactly mentholated, but it's fresh. You know, it's not citric fresh, but it's.
If you were to have just tried that without knowing what was in it, how easy would you find it to pick out the ingredients?
I wouldn't be able to guess, and that's rather like. I always think that the sign of a really, really good meal, sort of celebrity chef type meal, is that you simply couldn't make it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, the combination of flavors it has to be perfect, but you wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah.
That's the magic, which
that's
sensational.
I think that's probably something that goes into whiskey as well. When you think about what the mystique and the ritual that has to be done. And then if you think about the sort of the process and the myriad elements that go into producing your own distillery bottling, and what happens when a still runs out, and what happens if you have to change one tiny detail or the weather's been,
and how to replicate it to achieve the same balance.
Exactly. Yeah. I think some of the fine minds, ringing each other up and saying, by the way, are you using second fill casks instead of first fill casks this year, because the proportion seems to have changed in your 10-year-old. Yeah. I won't say who that was, but
Right.